You know, I've had a few days to stew on this now, a few days to simmer, slow cook, marinate on the madness of the budget that we just had, the UK National Autumn Budget delivered by Chancellor Rachel Reeves. And you know what? I'm not calming down. I'm getting angrier, properly petrol in my veins furious, because the more that I think about it, the more you realize that everyone has missed the magnitude of the meteor that just hit the automotive world. And let me explain right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
You see, people are talking about every aspect of the budget except for this. They see the EV paper mile thing and they shrug as if it's some fair and inevitable nudge. They think it's just leveling the playing field. They think that EV drivers have been living in some kind of tax-free driving theme park all this time. They forget about the fact that charging an EV on a public charger is already costing as much as filling your petrol car with a tank full of fuel. You know, I've had to charge a few electric cars recently. It's cost way more than I anticipated, believe me. They also ignore the insurance prices on these cars, and that applies to all cars, but EVs as well. Most importantly, they ignore the fact that EV owners lose so much money because of the plummeting resale values. I mean, all of us private drivers now, we're all sort of lying face down in the gravel by the side of the road, and the government just really, you know, giving it up the backside. Let's be honest, if I can dare to say that sort of thing, but if I'm just being brutally honest, I mean, that's what's happening to us, right? That is what happens to the motorists. Let's look at the real danger here. You're thinking paper mile, you're thinking more money, but that's not the real danger. The real danger is the psychology. You put tax on petrol, people grumble and they go in, they buy a meal deal and they just carry on driving. You put VAD, road tax on a car, increase it, folks sigh once a year, then they forget about it. But put paper mile on a vehicle? That torpedoes your trust, that cripples your confidence, that throttles your throttle. Suddenly, every meter you move your car costs you. Every school run, every job search, every time you decide to go out for a midnight McFlurry, you're paying for it. Every time you want to clear your head and go for a bit of a quiet drive, that becomes like a guilty pleasure tax. You won't pop to the coast because it costs more than the fish and chips you have to buy when you get there. You won't give your neighbor a lift to the airport anymore. You won't enjoy the simple catharsis of driving because a little invisible meter is tapping away in the back of your head like some parking attendant that's chasing you down the road in an electric scooter tanked up on espresso. This is not just financial pressure, it's psychological imprisonment. And you think, oh, it's just 3 pence per mile, it's just 1.5 pence per mile for a plug-in. But they already said that it will go up with inflation every year. So it will rise. Wait till it gets to £1 a mile. Do the maths. How much is that going to cost you? And they say that it will record at every MOT time. This is what they're thinking about. They haven't quite figured out how they're going to do it. They haven't figured out the fact that new cars don't have an MOT until the 3rd year. So what happens in the meantime? They've already said that they're not going to use a GPS system. So are they expecting people to self-declare? Or are the new car buyers just going to get a massive bill on the 3rd year with the MOT for all the motoring that they've done over 3 years? And clocking? I mean, it's actually quite easy to change the mileage in a modern car, you understand. You just plug in a computer with the right software. This is going to become a real thing. Everyone will do it. The used market now will have no reliable way of knowing what the real mileage is on an EV or a plug-in electric hybrid either, because everyone will tamper with it to save money. Of course they will. You would, wouldn't you? It's almost inevitable. Another thing I've been thinking a lot about is something I didn't know much about, and it didn't really affect me, honestly, but when they talked about Motability and I looked into it, I mean, oh goodness, don't get me started. I mean, it's like they've resurrected the spirit of those little blue plastic disability cars from the 1970s, the ones that look like an overturned wheelie bin with windows and a motor in the back. I mean, they think everybody should be driving those again, you know? They haven't just trimmed choice when it comes to Motability by taking certain cars off the list, luxury cars. They've imposed limitation. They've stripped dignity from those people. You ever thought that maybe, just maybe, someone who's had a tough hand in life might actually benefit from a bit of joy in their car, a bit of pride, the confidence boost of owning a nice car, the feeling that life isn't just hospital appointments and battles with bureaucracy, but maybe, just maybe, that sweet moment of staring at that Alfa Romeo with a V6 that whispers with Ferrari DNA, that is actually your car. That is your car that you get to drive, despite what everybody thinks about your special needs or disabilities. That's your car. Imagine that sensation can keep a person going. It's like therapy with pistons. Yet they've removed it. Alphas, BMWs, Audis, Mercedes, for no reason. Because disabled people, people say that, oh, well, disabled people, why are we paying for them to have all of these fancy cars? Well, you're not. This is the thing. They get a fixed allowance for their car. If they decide to go above and beyond that for a luxury model, they pay the extra. They pay the extra. The state wasn't buying everyone Mercedes-Benzes. That wasn't happening. This is purely, symbolic, this thing that they've done in the budget. This cut doesn't save any money, and it actually destroys a lot of things, because we come to the grand catastrophe, if you like, the full chain reaction of everything that's happening with this and Motability and paper mile. Paper mile poisons EV confidence. Plug-in hybrids are getting dragged into this too, strangled before they've even gotten out of the driveway. And plug-in hybrids was supposed to be the perfect stopgap solution between, petrol cars and going full EV. So honestly, the sales of those are rising, and I've often said to people they are the best solution, because only if you can plug in at home. If you can plug in at home, they're great, because you plug in at home, if you do 20-30 miles a day, you do most of that on electric power, about 70-80%, and it'll be fine. And if you needed to go for a longer run, then you just put petrol in it, and it's like the perfect solution. Don't forget, you're already paying tax on that petrol. I mean, used prices for these cars are gonna plummet so fast you could strap skis on them and ride them down a slope. Dealers are going to go cold. Finance houses are going to get scared because they know how much depreciation is going to happen. They won't get their money back. Manufacturers will tighten model allocations, if you think about it, because they really want a nice car, and they're not supposed to do that because the ZEV mandate doesn't let them. The ZEV mandate, of course, limits how many petrol cars they can sell a year. Obviously, it's stipulating a certain percentage of electric cars. Like, for example, this year's 28%. I think we're only going to hit about 22%, actually, to be honest with you. Next year it goes up again. I mean, the whole ZEV mandate just becomes a grim joke, because how do you sell electric cars when the government has branded each mile as a taxable misdemeanor? I mean, we're not talking about upsetting the apple cart here. We're talking about the apple cart wobbling, and it goes airborne. Lands in a cratered pothole, snaps a wheel like a breadstick, and flips into the verge and scatters apples across the countryside, where they sit and ferment into a sticky cider of doom. Good news, guys. Check out all of these amazing books from Veloci Publishing. You know what? I've got you 30% off exclusively on these and more. All you have to do is head over to veloci.co.uk, choose the book you want. In fact, here's the list. Screen grab this now. When you get to the checkout page, just enter the code BCG30 and instantly get 30% off these and more. And as for Motability, don't forget, that is a kind of volume in sales gone for the industry. That's a fleet. That's a whole fleet segment that's going to be hurt. I mean, they're not huge. The luxury cars aren't a huge part of that, but they will be significant, and they will affect residuals. It's just, the whole thing is about 300,000 cars, and there's, I think, maybe 5% of those are the luxury cars. But it does make a significant difference, and it shatters confidence, like I said, and that will have an impact. I mean, supporting the British car industry, I mean, let's look at it. I mean, what are they talking about? JLR, Land Rover, Range Rover, magnificent machines, but they're a bit too posh really for volume numbers, right? Nissan, well, they build a Leaf, which folks will now avoid because it's an electric car, but which, certainly on the Motability scheme, essentially that's all they want people to have, because they want people to have British-built cars, right? Stellantis, Ford, Renault, Volkswagen, they're all hemorrhaging money. They're hammering prices and hoping that someone's going to turn the lights back on at some point, Former Stellantis boss, a guy who was always pretty astute at anticipating market trends, a guy called Carlos Tavares, he said that the ZEV mandate was terrible, quote, terrible for the UK car industry, and basically saying that it could kill the UK car industry. This is actually what he said. Now he's left, actually. I'm not surprised. I'd be like, turning around and going, right, I'm done with this crap, and walk away from the industry as well. You can't really blame him for that, can you? I wish he was still in the industry, because I'd love to hear what he would say about pay per mile and how that would impact EVs and PHEVs. And don't forget, Stellantis is pretty much all in on the EV segment, right? And then we're talking about invaders. Think about it. Other manufacturers coming in. I mean, the Japanese actually, they're quietly smirking, because they never really bought into the whole EV thing full time. They tentatively got into it. They focused on their hybrids and the pure hybrids, not the plug-in hybrids. And those are going to do really well, I reckon. The Chinese, well, they're ready to sell us anything we want. Cheaper, faster, fresher. And the Indians, you know what? India is about to pull off something of a comeback, with cars, because Tata's new products, if you go and have a look, they're stylish, they're solid, they're modern. and astonishingly affordable. And they make European price tags look like comedy sketches from Monty Python, right? Talk about something like a Tata Sierra at £16,000. I mean, it looks better than a Range Rover Discovery or Land Rover Discovery or whatever it's called now, you know? And that's the sort of car you'd go, yeah, I'd consider that. It's not too bad. I mean, that thing would, you know, you'd go up to the docks and buy them as they rolled off the ship. That's what you would do. Just take your cash and go, I'll have one of those. Suzuki's already doing it because it's a Japanese company. They've got an EV, of course, but now they build an EV in India and they're bringing it over. Competitively priced. Good car. I've reviewed it. Go check it out. So the legacy car manufacturers, however, they're teetering. Like a pub stool at last orders. Not that I know much about that, but anyway. And yes, this budget could really accelerate their demise. The UK car park will age like neglected leftovers because we already got cars in the UK, basically people holding on to their cars for longer than ever. And we're talking about people's cars being generally 10 years and above on average now in the UK. First time it's kind of hit that target. What's going to happen with new cars? New petrol cars will get pricier. Mark my words. The reason being because people now want to go back to ICE, to the internal combustion engine. But manufacturers have been told that they can't sell them, but people want them. So they'll go, all right, well, we'll just hike up the prices because we can. Because where else are they going to get them? Hybrids also will explode in popularity, I think, because that's still the halfway house, but not the plug-ins. EVs will stagnate, and the plug-in hybrids they're not going to have a really tough time, especially in the used market, because that's going to be devastated. EV and plug-in hybrid, but EV prices had already gone down. Plug-in hybrid prices are about to collapse. You mark my words. You can justify pay-per-mile any way you like, but think about it as a used car buyer. You're somebody that's looking at getting the best deal possible. You're looking at saving every penny. Are you going to buy a car? Are you going to buy a car today that you know in 2028 is going to start hitting you with an extra charge at every MOT for every mile that you've motored? And with plugins, that's on top of the tax, like I said, for the fuel that you already put into it, which is about 60%. Plug-in hybrids were, like I said, the best stopgap solution, weaning people off petrol to go electric. But they have just killed the messenger, quite frankly. And you know that PPM, once established, is going to be extended. Once they figured out how the thing is going to work, and once the prices go up and they go, actually, we make more money off that than we ever did off VED, you know they're going to expand it to all cars. What's giveaway time, guys? Those incredible guys at Veloci Books sent me these books, and I've decided I'm going to give them away. All you have to do is head over to browncarguy.com, where you'll see a page there giving you an entry form to win these books. And all you have to tell me is which one you want and why you want it, and then I'll put you into a draw, and maybe you'll get one of them. This is only for December 2025, so hurry up. What's going to happen to car culture? The joy, the freedom, the rebellion, the community, all of that gets throttled at source. Every mile will become a calculation. Every journey will have to be justified. This is what they want. They don't want you to take unnecessary journeys. Every simple pleasure of driving becomes a luxury. This budget hasn't supported the UK car industry. It hasn't supported drivers. It hasn't supported freedom. It has performed automotive self-harm with all the elegance of a rhino on roller skates trying to pirouette on an oil slick. And unless someone wakes up soon, the only new cars we'll see in Britain will be built in Shanghai or Pune, while the rest of us cling to rusty old Ford and Vauxhall hatchbacks, hiding them from the taxman like contraband, quite frankly. Car culture deserves better. Drivers deserve better. Britain deserves better. And let me leave you with this final bombshell, because it turns out all of this wasn't even necessary. Just weeks before the budget, the Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, this news kind of has just come out now, I don't know why, but before the budget, this watchdog had concluded that improved tax receipts from inflation and wage growth had not only closed that gap, you know, they kept saying they got 20 billion pound hole, 30 billion pound, they hadn't just closed the gap. It had provided a surplus of 4.2 billion pounds. In other words, the fiscal black hole dissolved, yet the government proceeded with significant tax rises. Critics now accuse the Chancellor of exaggerating, some even say misleading the public about the need for sweeping tax hikes. Remember, they said, oh, you all have to pay because we need it. Well, did we? Really? I mean, just think about this for a moment. How would the country have felt if we had had a budget when, for once, the government didn't say, oh, we're broke and you're all going to have to pay for it, but rather, hey guys, everything is great And you know what? We've got some extra money and we're going to spend it on the NHS. How wonderful would that have been? Instead we got this, the beginning of the end of motoring and cars as we've known and loved them for about 130 years. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you hit like, share and subscribe. I'm looking forward to reading what you think, and I'll catch you all again in the next video if it's worth making anymore. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the video or finding it useful. If you are, don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe and leave a comment. And you know what? Support independent channels like mine. You can do that at patreon.com, coffee.com, or right here on YouTube by taking out a voluntary subscription. Or you know what? Even better, I've got 3 books out at the moment. The first is Ulysses Files. It's an all-action thriller novel. It's a lot of fun. Had great reviews on Amazon. The second is a compilation of 13 stories I've written over 20 years, ranging from cars, sci-fi, and the human condition. A brilliant read, I've been told. And the third book is How to Do What I Do, How to Be an Automotive Content Creator. All of these are on Amazon. Go check them out. I would appreciate it if you buy one. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.